This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. I'm going to bring her up shortly. Just a little quick reminder, though, your boy does have a newsletter that drops every single Wednesday, and I don't auto-sign anybody up for it. So if you want to get in on this newsletter that we're growing out, guys, it's all industry-specific stuff. I need you to go to the website, thefreightcoach.com. It will auto-prompt you to register for it. I don't want to annoy you with a newsletter by auto-signing you up, because I personally despise it when new newsletters get dropped into my inbox. I'm like, what the hell is this? But with that being said, you guys, speaking of what the hell is this, I got my good friend Blythe back on the show today because she's got a new venture going on out there. Blythe, what is up? Happy Thursday.
Oh, thank you for having me. I always enjoy your show, and I was just listening to your episode with Annalise, and I love being able to hear those in the trenches stories, like what you provide. So I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. And I saw that when you had started your new venture here, I'm like, as soon as I reached out to you, because I'm like, shit, it's been a long time since I've seen Blythe. I'm kind of pissed because when I was in Jacksonville last year, I didn't see Jacksonville's finest, aka you, when I was in town.
Well, I happened to, I got married that week. So I was literally like on my honeymoon while this was going on, 30 minutes away. And I thought, I might be able to push it and just be like, hey, can we just, swing by and maybe, stop by the bar around the Sawgrass area where the conference was being held. Yeah. But that was kind of a no-go. So I was like, all right.
It happens. And anytime I see Jacksonville in the news, I have to reach out to you, especially with your guys' new head coach who just botched the Duval chant. And it's hilarious. I love it.
The off season is really where we peak. So we try to just enjoy this time while hope is still alive, because once September, October hits, it could go downhill very fast.
Yeah, reality sinks in, and another top 5 draft pick starts to align, and how that one's going to be the savior for you and everything.
But we're still here. We're still here.
You're the only true Jaguars fan I know, hands down. But without a doubt, you bleed the blue.
Teal, actually.
Teal.
Sorry.
No, please correct me.
No, there's actually a group. One of the first fan clubs that was first created for the Jaguars was called Bleeding Teal. So not to say I was involved in that. Yes.
Yes, you were. You were probably the founding member. You're the reason why that became a thing, aren't you?
I'm one of many. One of dozens of us.
Oh, that's funny. So how's everything going, Blythe? You got a new thing going on here. What is this?
Yes. So back in February, actually at the Manifest conference, I finally was able to launch a business that I've been thinking about for years.
Mhm.
Basically, an information resource hub called CargoRex. Website is cargorex.io. But being in my position, so I have created content, I've created websites, and I've been in logistics for the better part of the last 15 years.
Mhm.
And I've been thinking, there was years on LinkedIn where there was this image that was shared of like all of these different logistics tech companies that were coming about. And I thought, why is this an image of just logos? Why isn't this a website? And it just was on the back burner for a while. I was like, oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And then finally, I was like, okay, I'm actually going to do this. And so last summer, started actually building it out,
Mhm.
building out what's essentially a resource hub of trying to build the Google search of logistics.
Yeah.
And so we started in the summertime, got the site ready to launch for an MVP level around Thanksgiving, and then we went fully public PR wise in around early February. And so ever since then, it's just been a grind, honestly,
Yeah.
managing a couple different companies now, a podcast, and finding out what the day to day looks like now, because there's a mindset of when you're going to launch a business. And
Mhm.
then there's the mindset of, okay, now what does the day to day look like? And that's what I'm currently, sort of swimming upstream right now in.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think it's a phenomenal tool, right? Because it's like, I mean, you go to a lot of conferences in the industry. There's a lot of different companies that are coming out, and I try and have a bunch of different people on the show, and whether they're business owners, of trucking companies and freight brokerages and everything else, and there is not a shortage of tech at your disposal right now. And then furthermore, it's like, what do you actually need? But like, how do you research what you need without, because like, this knowing the social media game, Blythe, like you can't even like click on websites and like social media pages without cookies. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're getting just fucking bombarded with information out there, right? So it's like, is this kind of the whole purpose of it? Is it's like incognito mode where you can go in there and actually search what's available without going and just, getting a sales pitch.
I love that you brought that up because it was very intentional with the site that we built it with privacy first in
Yeah.
mind. I wanted to be, because I'm sure you get the same thing, but I get dozens of press releases, sometimes a day, and it's very challenging to keep up with all of that information. And some of it's not really relevant to me at all, but it's tough to sift through a lot of that noise. And I know that if I see an email that comes through, there's probably some kind of tracking software on it. I mean, I'm guilty of using, HubSpot as well. But I found myself in a position of, I don't want to open this email because I don't want them to see that I've opened it, because then I'm going to get the follow-up email of, hey, and just, the continuously following up. And so what happens is that a lot of those emails just get kind of, drowned out in the noise. And so with CargoRex, I really wanted to focus on, number one, breaking down the information silos that exist in this industry, but also making it a tool that I would actually use first.
Yeah.
And so that's been the biggest hurdle, is like, okay, what are all of the companies that exist, from not necessarily like a top 100 trucking company or a top 100 brokerage. Like there are plenty of media companies that already cover those things. I wanted the services, the insurance, the consultants, the technology.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to shine a light on those different solutions and do it in a way that it would be useful for me to use as a tool. And if it's useful for me as a tool, how can I build it out from there to help others with their research process as well? Because let's be honest, a lot of companies out there, they don't necessarily have a website. They don't necessarily have a great, SEO strategy. They don't have a great social media strategy. And it's challenging to find all of the different providers out there. So I'm trying to take word of mouth recommendations and put them on steroids, but also just put the information in front of people as much as possible and let them make a decision on who they want to move forward with.
It's like a digital trade show floor is essentially what you created there, right? Because it's like, I was just out there, and I don't do a lot of conferences anymore because like I'm just not at a place in my business to where like I can just shut shit down for a week. It's really, really challenging. So I'm very selective about the shows that I attend. Like I got to be able to double dip is the way that like there has to be prospects for my brokerage in the area that I can go and see. And then if I'm going to go and do my show and everything there, like I want to do it, but like I'm at an inflection point in my business where it's like I have to commit to one or the other for the majority of my time. And, like with my show, I just made the decision, like with my show, like it's a pretty dialed in machine at this point, right? Like pre-show production, post-show production, during all of that it's very dialed. Like we're booked out till like the end of May for guests. And I mean, we go 5 days a week, right? So it's like, we have a really fucking in-depth thing that goes on. And then Christian, who does all my marketing after the show, like, I mean, it's a process where he like sends a promo package over, everything's just done. And it's like, boom, we're on to the next one. So it's like, I was looking at it from a maturity standpoint. I'm like, all right, I've been doing this for 5 years now. We have our processes and procedures down, but the brokerage is a lot of growth trajectory that's included in that. And, you know this, Blythe, because you've started with 0 customers as well. Business just doesn't fall from the tree, right? So it's like, you got to really be forging through in a lot of business development, but not everybody has the time or the resources to shut their stuff down for 4 or 5 days, go to a conference to even check it out. And then furthermore, how do you even know what you're fucking looking at? I think that there's an assumption out there that everything about tech. And that's why it's like, from my show, like I'm always going to focus on the fundamentals, the basics, right? Because like I'm an idiot for the most part, right? Like when it comes to a lot of stuff, I don't know. But most people are afraid to ask those dumb questions because they don't want to feel ignorant. They don't want to then feel like, oh, am I going to get taken advantage of if I ask that? So I feel like having a digital place like this where people can just go in and, I mean, I'm assuming, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, there's going to be like a TMS section, a load board section, insurance section, and people can go through and see what providers are out there.
Yes. And so it's been really a lot more challenging than I thought it would be to categorize, this industry. I thought it would be, pretty simple, but there's so many nuances to each different solution, and there's technology. So we have it broken down into sort of, a few main hierarchies. So we have associations, we have technology, we have services, we have creators, and then we have events. So these are all of the places that we think that people are, looking for that kind of information. If I come into this industry and I don't know anyone, what association should I be joining? If I don't, maybe my role is shifted and I've gone from intermodal over to trucking. What trucking events should I be going to? And so that's where we're kind of coming at it with that mindset of how can I help people cut to the chase? And so on the site, you're able to make a free profile. I wanted to make it free for everyone. Nice. We do have premium options for businesses who want a little bit more customization. But then from the user standpoint, you're able to make public and private lists. And so then that way you only have access to those different lists unless you want to make it public, like you're publicly supporting such and such events, such and such associations. You can choose to make that public. But for a use case, for example, for me is if I'm going to go to a conference, I can create a list, a private list on my user account, and I can save the companies that I want to interact with and use that as my sort of just cheat sheet for when I go to a conference. Mm-hmm. There's also, I use it for guests, booking different, technology providers and things like that. Who do I want to target in the future? And so you're able to have those different lists. And so then that way you can organize your own goals, your own strategies, and then choose to make it public if you want to. And then there's a lot more, just sort of diving in even deeper than that, because you say logistics technology, but there's so many fractions or factions that come from that, particular category. And then, for example, like TMS, there's, TMS that a brokerage will custom build and provide it themselves. Sometimes they will provide it, as a standalone service that other shippers and other carriers and brokers can use as well. Maybe independent agents can use. But then there's so much more to it than, just here's, 10 TMS providers, but you have to offer the additional filters so then that people can continuously, be able to research and drill down exactly what they're looking for. And so it's been kind of, frankly, a pain in the ass. Like I thought it was going to be a lot, easier to categorize this industry, but once you just start diving into it, it's like, wow, there's so many different intricacies of what people are looking for. And I didn't just want to be I'm trying to build a better Google for logistics. And so that's where a lot of, I think, the learning curve is coming for me right now, is that it's not, launching a company, you really have to start from the ground up, as you say. You have to continuously find, new ways to innovate and new ways to think about your customers first and foremost, and the information that they're going to be looking for. And I think the more, I guess, frustrating aspect is that I want it to be perfect, but it's not there yet. And I want it to be fully fleshed out. It's not there yet. And I just have to practice, I think, a little bit of patience without, yelling at my dev team a little too much.
Yeah, I don't. Patience. Tell me how I could acquire some. I would love to find that out. No, but no, like this is, it is. And here's another side of things that are never really talked about is it's very fucking overwhelming when you don't know like where to start with stuff, right? And then you're like, and especially if you don't have a network, to reach out to. Like now, 5 years in, like I'm very fortunate. I have a very wide network. I have a really good idea on who to reach out to for what. But it wasn't always this way, and just starting out and just deciding, like, hey, what CRM do I need here? Like, are there any free CRMs and stuff like that? And then, what fits inside of my price point, and then just kind of taking that and really understanding what is available to you without going to Google and Googling, what should I do here? And then especially if you're inside of the transportation industry. And I mean, this just as well as anybody, there's a lot of pay to play shit that goes on out there. So it's like, are they paying the most to be on this, or are they the actual best fit for my company? And, and then again, regional meetings, like I'm just like, I'm really amped on this product because obviously like I just eat, breathe, and sleep transportation at the end of the day. And it's like, are there regional meetups that I can go to and spend a day where I could justify going for a day to go in and meet and network with other transportation professionals and everything else? Or, maybe I'm taking on a new role at a larger, more established organization and we want to invest heavily in marketing and sales. What events are out there? You can go to the TMSA and stuff like that. So it's like having that, but most importantly, having it be a trusted resource of information that isn't like, you got to sign up, you got to pay, you got to do all this shit just to get it. And that it's just kind of like a hands-off approach. And you can take your time and actually decide it and with a fear of just getting bombarded with fucking DMs and emails at that point.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because one of the categories I was really passionate about was exactly what you're talking about. Are those regional meetings, those regional associations that can be really powerful? And I think for a lot of associations, they've been around for so long that some of them haven't quite adapted to, having a website or even having their networking events on a calendar that's able to be shared. I just registered for an event recently that they didn't have the ability to buy the tickets on their site, and they were using an image instead of the text from the image, and all of those things won't make you indexable in the search engines in Google and Bing and anybody else who use, I guess, the 5 people that maybe use Yahoo search, but any of those things, that image is not going to be discoverable in the way that you want it to be. And so associations was something that I had started very early on Cargo Rex. And then I just did a post about a week and a half ago. I said, what associations do you belong to that you feel impacted by? And drop their name in the comments because I want to know about them. I want to get them added to Cargo Rex. And then I also want to know about your personal experience at those associations, working with those associations, and being able to compile that information so it's not so. I think reviews on Facebook, Google can be very much gamified. I wanted to use real testimonials from people and treat these association listing pages. TMSA is a great example. TMSA was actually one of the first ones, first associations to sign up for Cargo Rex. So shout out to Jen over there. But being able to have all of those resources in one place, so then that way, if I heard recently from a gentleman who has a bunch of European-based shippers and clients and transportation representatives. And when they come to the US, they want to know like what events they should go to, what associations they should be a part of. And they right now are just flying blind and they're just going off of word of mouth recommendations. And so we were able to compile all of those associations together. I'm working on a piece to compile all of the testimonials that people gave about those associations. So then that way there is that one-stop shop, hopefully, with serving the goal as to help people cut to the chase and be able to find the most value as quickly as possible.
I love it. What I got to ask, Blythe, what's your content strategy for this? How are we going to roll this out to get this out there in front of people?
Well, I think it's a lot slower than I would like. And going back to the patience thing, because I was asking myself, like, oh, is this something that I could just go to ChatGPT and ask it to, hey, create a list of like 10 associations that I should know about in logistics, or tell me a list of all of the associations that exist in logistics. And you will get very like mixed results. Some of them are global, they're not necessarily regional. And so it's really going to be that, that 5 categories that I talked about earlier. I'm literally going to go one by one to ask my network and the surrounding network of, what are you recommending? What are you seeing? What do you like to see? And then using that direct feedback and adding it to the site. So then that way we have more emails rolling out that we'll be able to tell you, hey, these are the latest tools that have been added to the TMS category over on CargoRex. Check them out. We're working on different algorithms that will place higher in our search rankings, because we're building a search algorithm inside of the site as well. So that way the listings that are verified, it's one thing to add a company to the site, but it's another thing to have somebody within the company actively managing it. So we've rolled out verified profiles. So then that way anybody who is managing directly that profile is able to update it regularly. We also ping any of the company owners every 4 to 6 months to tell them to update their profiles, so that way they show up higher in the search rankings. So we want verified profiles, we want completed profiles, and we want them updated regularly. And that way we prioritize them higher in our search rankings. And then we're still listing everybody else, and we just list those in ABC order. But we want the ones that are putting in the most effort of, giving you the most information all in one place. Those are the ones that we're choosing to prioritize, because we think that, the most updated and the most fulfilled profiles are going to be the best user experience on the site. So it's really just pulling in, my experience with building sites and making content and working in logistics over the last, 15 or so years, and just compiling it all into one project. Feel like it's the culmination of my career with this particular company.
No, this is fantastic. So, and then is this going to be something where it's going to, like, I don't know, it could turn into, I don't want to call it a job board, but like, is there going to be like, hey, transportation job roles, by driver, warehouse? Like, do you see it eventually building out into that? Or is that like a feature already where it's like, if a company's on there and they're hiring, they can just, there'll be like a verified hiring check mark and stuff like that?
Not necessarily for hiring, more built around the research tools. And so also there's what I haven't really talked about a lot yet is the content side of things too. We have so many creators like yourself that is making fantastic content out there. And that's what I want to push. I want to be able to push the creators that, like you, that are talking to different business owners in this space every single day, because you do business with people that you like, that also have a good product. And so I thought it was really important to really prioritize the creator side of things, getting their content discoverable, and then putting it on the recommendations of, if you're looking for a TMS provider or you're looking for an insurance provider, what are the episodes that have already covered these questions pretty in depth, and maybe have something that you haven't really thought about that process yet. A lot of my interviews, a lot of my discussions over on Everything is Logistics, like they're great when it's subject matter experts from within the company, but the listens and the downloads go through the roof when it's a customer talking about that product. When it's SPI is a great example. The freight agent interviewing, folks like your business partner, those episodes do so well because it doesn't feel like selling. I think people just don't want to necessarily be sold to. They want to do the research on their own end, listen to that content first, and then come and decide and do business with you. So while jobs is not going to be, if it's something that the people want, then it's something I would consider adding in the future. But right now it's really about compiling the industry's current providers, creating additional filters for pricing and features and, different things like that for each one of these tools, and then building it out from there. So then that way it's the best use case as possible. And then, once we have, I think, the data in a pretty good place, we are going to start adding in different AI enabled search features so that way we can get you to the answer that much quicker. So that's essentially what our roadmap looks like. we could, slap an AI bot on it right now. I just don't feel like that's in the best interest of the site right now. I really want to hone in on our data and make sure that we have the most comprehensive database of all of the logistics providers and solution providers. And then we'll worry about, adding different AI components on top of that, because that world is just shifting so fast anyways. And so even it's tough to keep up, but that's what the goal of Cargo Rex is to help you keep up and help you to stay updated and then know what's going on in the industry and what you need to be thinking about possibly for your own business.
I like the creator angle that you're taking with this, obviously as a creator, but like, if you are interviewing a company, right? And then you can find an actual podcast of that company and they can tune in and listen to that. And because you're right, like if you want to find out a little bit more and maybe you don't want to go to their website, or, you want to learn more about what any of those companies that are out there are doing. If there's a podcast that's already been created out there and they can tune in and listen to that, I mean, I think that's a fantastic feature out there, because I feel like that's where a lot of people's buying decisions are made is through content from like a trusted creator, who's out there, or a trusted podcast who's interviewing people that knows like, hey, they're going to ask the right questions here. They're going to go in there and they're going to ask a lot of stuff that I might want to right away. And, it's like, I don't think enough creators out there have any idea how much of an impact one podcast episode can make, or one post can make out there, and what it can do for their business and everything else. And then even all of those companies that are out there, it still baffles me that there are businesses out there who do not see the value in content. They do not see the value. Like, it's not as bad anymore, but like and not like even 6 to 8 months ago, there was still push. I don't know if we want to go on a podcast and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's 30 minutes of free fucking airtime, like it baffles me. But again, I'm not here to tell anybody how to run their business, but geez.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where being a creator for as long as I've been, I have seen the ebbs and flows, and I've seen, sort of the rise of like, networks and, oh, come join our network and, we can bring your show under our umbrella. And I've toyed around with those ideas in the past, but the warning signs are typically, you're going to lose control of your content. You're going to lose control of your editorial. You're going to lose control of the advertisers and sponsorships that you can get on your show. And then that company typically owns all of the data. We don't do that at Cargo Rex. Like, we're just importing your RSS feed, and an RSS feed is essentially a data feed. So any plays, any downloads, any listens, that still goes right to your show. You don't lose your control, your independent status. We are just surfacing that content to a relevant audience. And I wanted to build this for, somebody like myself. What would I join? And that's what I built it for other creators in the industry.
No, I love it. And that's what needs to be out there, right? Like, I mean, anybody who has reached out to me about like, how do they start a podcast, or how they, like, I literally just have like, I'm pretty sure I have a Google document now that I just send everybody of like, this is all the stuff that we have. This is all the places that we're registered on. This is how you do it. Right.
Love it.
Because, to me though, it's like, I'm more concerned about like adding value and impact to the industry than I am of, do I have, man, like at the end of the day, people are going to pay attention to you because of the information you put out there, not because of anything else, right? Like, I still try and do that, not as much as I did, but like, I will shoot a lot of my content on my fucking iPhone still, just to show people like, you do not need a setup like I have now to do anything, right? Like, you can, and I've done that at times. I have literally done my podcast off of my iPhone just to fucking prove a point.
Love it.
Like, you do not need any of this shit to start. Like, it's nice, but
fear of equipment is a very big thing for a lot of creators. The overwhelming majority of podcasts never make it past 10 episodes. And so being able, and I think in the age of AI, being able to prove that, hey, I can grab my phone and I can, talk for 10 minutes about a particular topic and upload it directly to a social media platform, that is, I think, going to help you stand out more than some of the things that could be easily copied and generated by AI. So I think you're right on the money that, that type of content approach is, we talk a lot about authenticity, and that is exactly what you should be doing. Is that proves your authenticity, your level of trust in your audience, and that you're able to share those quick takeaways really, really efficiently.
Yeah, 100%. Blythe, We keep these shows at 30 minutes because everybody's got day jobs who listens to this. And I know you got one
All
as
right.
well. Right? How does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on now, Blythe?
Sure. So they can check out the Cargo Rex website. It's Cargo Rex, CARGOREX for, little dinosaur.io, or you can check out the podcast over at everythingislogistics.com.
Perfect. Blythe, I love it. Hit Blythe up, you guys. She's building something great. It's great having you on. As always, you guys, if you guys get value in what you heard today, which you better have, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because that's how your network's going to see value, because chances are if you saw value, they will as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.